Let's talk about something that I know so many of us are living right now, and that is healing while still showing up for everyone else. Welcome or welcome back to Through the Journey with Jennifer, and I am continuing this I Choose Me series. I think for a lot of us, um, 40 and over, maybe even younger, healing doesn't happen in a quiet, uninterrupted space. It could happen between meetings, in the car, after everyone else has been taken care of. And the question becomes, how do we tend to our own hearts and growth without feeling like we're letting everyone else down and without letting ourselves down? A recent season in my life, I was doing some deep personal healing and unpacking old hurts and learning new emotional patterns, trying to become more self aware. And at the same time, I was still the person everyone depended on. And when I say personal healing and unpacking old hurts, I'm just going to share a little bit with you. I don't want to go too deep into it. Um, but if you've been following me, you've heard me say before how I was a teen mom. I had my first child when I was 15. That was one of the healings and the unpacking hurts that I had to deal with. And I haven't heard many people talk about this. And that makes me want to do another episode to really dive a little deeper into it. But there were some things that I really needed to forgive myself for as it relates to being a teen mom. You know, first there was the losing my virginity at a young age. And I also had to forgive my son's biological father because he was not in my son's life. And I'm just a child myself, at 15, in high school, still with the hopes and goals and dreams of living this life. But here I am with a baby. And I had to forgive him for not helping me and not being in my son's life. And when I was going through the process of forgiving him, it was a little heavy. And then I realized he did the right thing by his son by not being in his life. And I'm gonna tell you why in a minute. He was in and out of jail, selling drugs, doing drugs. And that was a pattern in his family. And I was angry a lot of the time when I was younger and I was raising and taking care of my son because I'm like, why do I have to do this alone? But I did it. And I pushed through because at the end of the day, this child didn't ask to be here. And then it was my responsibility to take care of him. And I was determined to do that, and I did. But that was the start of my perfectionism. Um, and that was the start of me proving myself to other people when I had no reason to. There was no reason for me to prove myself to other people. But because being a teen mom you're looked at as a stereotype, or looked down like you're not going to do anything with your life because you had a child as a teenager. And just the things that people would say in the comments that they would make. And I internalized that. And my response was, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to prove you wrong. You say I'm never going to go to college. I'm never going to graduate high school. I'm never going to get a job. I'm going to be on government assistance and have multiple children and multiple baby daddies. And okay, I'm going to prove you wrong. But that did damage to me all those years. And I had to unlearn that. I had to unpack that, right? So that was part of my personal healing, which included forgiveness. Now, back to my son's biological father. As I was going through that forgiveness and the realization that it was best that he was not in his life, I got a phone call. No, I got a message on social media from him one day, and he asked if I would give him a call. And if this was me a couple of months prior, I would have been like, fuck that shit. I'm not calling you. What am I calling you for? And at this time, my son was already an adult. He was grown. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give him a call. And I did call him, and he thanked me for raising our son, and he confirmed that he made the right decision not to be in his life because he knew the path that he was on, and he knew his family history, and he wanted to break that, you know? And I appreciated that confirmation, you know? And he also thanked my husband and my father for stepping in and raising my son, you know, and praising them because of the man my son turned out to be. So I'm thankful that I was able to hear that, and that was confirmation for me as I was going through my healing. As we are going through this healing and this unlearning, we're still showing up. We're still showing up as the wife, as the mother, as the friend, as the employee. And honestly, for me, sometimes I felt like I was holding myself together with sheer willpower. You know, I thought that healing was supposed to look quiet and contained. And in some ways it does. But I've learned that healing doesn't require you to step away from your life. It requires you to show up differently, to think differently inside of your life. When I allowed myself to heal imperfectly, slowly, in real time, something shifted. You know, I became more present, more honest, more grounded. And not because I was doing everything right, but because I was finally including myself, so to say, started paying attention more to myself, listening to myself, and I'm a big journal person, so by me journaling my feelings and what I was going through, that helped me to see also. And I started to go look back at my journal entries, and I saw the pattern. And I'm like, ooh, girl, we got to fix this. But it took time, you know, nothing happened overnight. And God, I wish it did happen overnight, but I'm thankful for God's grace. And I know that every experience, every situation, even if it was hurtful, and I thought it was going to break me, I learned something from it. I grew from those experiences, and they have helped to make me into the woman I am today. But it left me with some scars, you know? And slowly but surely, I work through them. And you can too. I read somewhere that psychologists call this integrated healing because we continue to live our life while intentionally tending to our emotional state and then also our inner world. I also read that women who practice self awareness and set healthy boundaries and allow themselves space for growth, they experience less burnout and more emotional resilience. I don't think this season is asking us for perfection. I don't think any season is asking us for perfection. I think it's asking for honesty. Honesty about what we need, honesty about what's draining us, and honesty about where we need more support. If you're healing while still carrying a lot of responsibility, I want to share 3 gentle ways to support yourself. 1, and if you've been following me, you've heard me talk about this before, and that's create boundaries. Not walls, just limits. Protect small pockets of time and energy for yourself without explaining or apologizing. Number 2, anchor into small daily practices. Healing doesn't require hours. Take 10 minutes to journal or quiet breathing or reflection. Those things can bring you back to yourself. 3, be honest with the people around you and let them know that you're in a season of growth. Because at the end of the day, you don't owe anyone details. But sharing, that's you taking care of yourself, and that can open the door to more understanding and support. I'm doing this series, and it's called I Choose Me, which can sometimes sound a little selfish, but choosing yourself doesn't mean abandoning others. It means including yourself in the care you so freely give to others, and to set those boundaries, and tell people what you need. Healing while showing up for others is strength. It's strength. And it's learning to hold space for yourself while still loving the people around you. And the truth is, the more gently and honestly you heal, the more authentically you show up. So listen, your healing matters. Your growth matters. So make time for yourself. Choose you.